And now let us prepare our hearts and minds for a time of meditation. I invite you to find a comfortable position in your seats. Close your eyes if you wish, and take a few deep breaths. Let go of any distractions or worries that may be on your mind.
Remember love always lights the way. When shadows fall and darkness hides the day, remember love, remember love, remember love. Remember love connects all living things. When loneliness confuses everything, remember love, remember love, remember love. I won't forget, try to replace the power of love, my saving grace. Remember love protects the heart from fear. When everything familiar disappears, remember love, remember love, remember love, remember love, remember love, remember love.
We give thanks today. This beautiful music, the talents, Glenn's heart and wholeheartedness, the lyrics, the message, the music, and every part of creating that. The arrangement, the fingers on the strings, the instrument, the making of the instrument. So we stand in awe as we meditate this morning on the profound complexity of all the parts, the symphony of all the parts of creation that are together and come together for our delight, our awakening, our atonement, our awareness of what is, and our part in that. A cell in a large, infinite, eternal organism. So today we're aware as we meditate that God is in God, the energy, the essence of a living, loving God, a spirit of God, the Holy Spirit of creation is in our very head. in our head, in our understanding. God, in our eyes and the way we see. And we give thanks for expanded sight, for seeing things right. God is in our speaking, in our mouth, in our tongue, in our words, the way we share, the tone. Our greetings, our support, our prayers. God is in our hands, in the way we work and give and offer and create and uplift and share. God has us in our very legs, our feet, our knees, our grounding, our movement, our walking, our mobility. God, in all of our systems, our breathing systems, our respiratory systems, the inhale, the exhale, we receive it without doing a thing for it. Being breathed. Our heart, God's heart. God's heart as our individual hearts. Beating effortlessly. Ever expanding in love. And loving actions. God in the blood, in the systems, the circulation, the very life force. God as the sole authority. God as creator. God as creation. God as our living, our loving, our reviving, our thriving. In silence, we embody the truth of God is all that we are. God in and as, through every part and particle of us. God is. I invite you to speak these words. God is. I am. I think that way. I feel that way. I live that way. I know who I am. I know what I am. I know how I serve. I am here. I am here. I am here. So be it. Amen. Come back as you're ready to and enjoy another beautiful offering with Glenn.
The holiest of places are the places where an ancient hatred has become a present love. When I come to your border and you take me in, without question, where I've been, then you offer me refuge from the pain I've known. You make me feel like I'm not alone. The holiest of places are the places where an ancient hatred has become a present love. A baby cries in a bombed out room, lost her family much too soon. A soldier holds her, says, I'm sorry, but I'll take you home. We'll keep you safe, make you our own. The holiest of places are the places where an ancient hatred has become a present love. Flowers spring up where the walls have come down, healing the land that was once a battleground. In my darkest hours, I've wept to find fear and judgment in my own mind, till my heart cries out for sweet release, to forgive myself and go in peace. The holiest of places are the places where an ancient hatred has become a present love.
Bravo, 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 Glenn. Thank you. Extraordinary, honey. Thank you for your wholehearted sharing of your gifts. It's a privilege for me to be here with you again. I absolutely are cheering you on out there, Unity of Davis. I feel like I'm a a sprinkler of fairy dust on your system there and a watering of a plant as your organism. So thank you. Some of you gave me uplift around the book. Some of you that were in the book study there. And Reverend Rich, thank you for inviting me and having me here and for that beautiful feedback that you provided for that. The talk today is based in a book by the same title, Greater Than the Sum of Your Parts. The author is Richard Schwartz. And I've been immersed in this work this is my second year now. And it's very correlating to the work I've been doing for decades, 30 years, as I look at all the internal parts that we have and some of the opposing internal forces we have. For example, we're called to be close to people, to get close to them, to move toward them. Then if we get too close to people, we call it intimacy. But if we get too close to people, most of us start to feel like we're losing ourselves. We'll use words like, oh, I'm smothering. Oh my God, get out of here. I got to have some space here. So if we get too close, then we have to like spring back out of here. Any of you in relationships know this, like, oh, I just love them so much. I could eat them with a spoon. And then it's like in the next minute or two, it's like, oh my God, can't you go away for a weekend? Or don't you have some job out in the yard you can do? Or something like, I need a little space here. I'm not able to breathe as well. And then if we get too much distance, it's like, oh, I miss them. Oh, is something wrong? And we start our little chase on to get them a little closer to us. So these are some examples of our internal parts. The part that wants to be connected, that wants to be together, and the part that needs autonomy, that needs a little individuation, that needs a chance to still be a self, even while we're in relationship with self. We also have other parts. Some of us identify with something like an inner critic. Has anybody got a voice of an inner critic that will tell you that you should have done this, you should have done that? What was you thinking? You're disorganized. You didn't plan well. What was you thinking? That was not kind. You should have been more respectful. So these inner critics, these parts of ourselves that run. The good news about all of this, and we know this in unity, which is, I believe is why we're attracted to New Thought unity principles, is because we know that we have a divine self, a higher self, an eternal and infinite self that's greater than our inner critic. That's greater than the self-talk. That's greater than our BS, our belief systems, our thought patterns, our paradigms, our worldviews, these things that's been established. So even though we have BS and we have to navigate that BS, the BS, we know deep down that inherently and innately it's a part of me and it's not who I am. It's a part of me and it's not all of who I am. So I wanted to encourage you to check this out. You can look this man up and listen to his work. There's, thousands of interviews and podcasts and things. Richard Schwartz, if you go to YouTube, or check out the book if this seems resonant with you, Greater Than the Sum of Our Parts, and begin to speak. So practically then, even when we're having big emotions, like, oh, I was so mad I could bite a nail in two. It's like, a part of me was angry. Instead of I am angry, or I am fed up, or I am frustrated, or I am despaired, or I am depressed. And we understand the power of our words and the power of affirmation. So then to insert, a part of me was really upset about that. A part of me was irritated. A part of me really reacted there. So keeping this clear distinction between our parts and who we are can go a long way to leaving us on a more solid foundation of who we actually are, which is a divine and precious being made whole and perfect and complete as we are, dealing with a lot of BS and a lot of thinking patterns that went into place in our brains, the way they got wired up from the things we experienced when we were little boys and little girls. So the great news about that is the wiring in our brain can be rewired. It's been proven scientifically that new neural pathways can form. And even though the wiring went in like that, we can rewire ourselves. And that's the basis also of our unity teachings. So the central message, so the greater than the sum of your parts system is called IFS, which is the internal family system, which looks at my young aspect, my wiser, older aspect, my feeling aspect, my thought aspect, IFS. And the central message of this is when we embrace all parts of ourselves with compassion, we can access an inherent wholeness in us. And trying to overcome the inner critic, trying to shut it up, trying to meditate it down or medicate it down, actually is what perpetuates it. So the very things that we're trying to do to overcome this has not been effective, sustainably effective for most of us. So then it's like seeing the inner critic part of us with some compassion. What is that part protecting me from? What is that part is afraid would happen if I stop doing this? So real contemplation, real compassionate inquiry. And then as we're able then to further embrace or more deeply embrace, and I can't embrace all of it, I'm here to tell you. However, I'm not at war with it anymore either. I'm seldom at war with it. And herein lies liberation. Herein lies freedom. So whether I ever can embrace it or not, to be determined. However, to the degree that I don't go to war with it, that I don't pick up that internal rope, then I'm going to live a freer, more peaceful, liberated life. So then as we're able to allow, to give some understanding to all the parts of ourselves with compassion, with understanding, with love, with strength, with power, with will, with zeal, with enthusiasm, with faith. Do these powers sound familiar to you? Our inherent, innate powers within us, to use those powers with all the internal parts of ourselves, with compassion, love, understanding. And therefore, then, and only to that degree will I ever be able to access, align with, and then enjoy and live with and express from my wholeness, my inherent wholeness, and lead a more integrated, calmer, more courageous, connected, collaborative, and peaceful life. And these are the C's of this greater than the sum of our parts. We know that we're in this access place when we lead with these 8 C's. He calls it the 8 C's of leadership. And that includes some of those that I just named: the courage, calm, clarity, connectedness, creativity, compassion, like that. So these are ways that we know when our highest self is leading us. So just this morning, I had a plan. I already did one church service. Then I had a plan to make an airport run. And I told my guest, who's a close friend of 40 years, I need to leave by a certain time in order to keep my commitment for the next church service. And she wasn't ready when it was time to go. And she was in her, we call it around here, we say, oh my goodness, she's in her pace. She's in a different pace. And I'm wanting her to increase the pace. Get on track. What did we say? We had a plan here. Work the plan. So, and then that part of me that I was calm, connected, clear, conscious, compassionate. I was self-led this morning. And then this part that's impatient, that's rigid, that's worried about being late, that's accountable, that's over-responsible, tried to take the lead. And then I noticed I was shutting down my heart to her. This little tone and this little, did you have to take a shower? You could have just gone without a shower. Why didn't you get up 30 minutes early? You hadn't had such a leisurely breakfast. I had all the ways and means how this could have gone differently to suit me. And then it's like, okay, all the parts are there. They're innocent too. So to extend compassion to those parts, take a few deep breaths and let myself move back into the lead, my highest self. And then I feel so good about it. I'm like, yay, I got my tail wagging again. Those hurt, hateful parts didn't take over. I'm doing well. Then we got in the car and got almost to the airport, and they've changed the exit to the airport when I wasn't looking. Under construction. So right past the exit I went. I don't believe it. Like, after all I've done for God. Like, whoa, now wait a minute. So another part tried to take over again. And this is a protector part. Have a plan, have a strategy, work hard, be accountable. And it's like that part is afraid. It's an afraid part. And before it took any more lead, I was able to take a deep breath, get myself, my high self, back in the lead. I notified Reverend Rich, hey, I've had an airport delay. I'll definitely be on the call one way or the other. And I won't be on there maybe as early as I'd hoped to. All is well. And it's one thing to say it, and it's another thing entirely to embody it, to practice it, and to apply it in the moment. So the basis of this teaching, greater than the sum of our parts, is that there is no bad part of us. There is no bad part. And if we believe what unity teaches, then that's not news to us. It's another thing to say there's no bad part, and entirely something different to embody it. To let all the parts of us be included and to extend compassion to the parts, just like we would extend compassion to a hurting friend. There's a difference then of leading with curiosity, so that when this part tries to take over, instead of trying to repress it, suppress it, depress it, disown it, deny it, which is what I've done for decades, it's like then I got to go toward that part with some curiosity, or it's more likely to take over. The more I go to war with it, the more likely it is to amp up. So the internal war is on. And I've got a part of me that's wired for that, like bring it. So it's no little thing for the high self to lead, to stay in the lead, and to continue to develop our capacities for this. So this is a practical tool, just like our mindfulness, journaling, giving the parts a chance to express. I'm irritated about this. I'm frustrated about that, to get some of that out of us and to do it like a practice of purification, so that it's not as likely to spill out onto people. And it's not as likely to spill out into our relationships, to the degree that this can be excavated purposefully and mindfully. When all the parts of us feel heard, valued, and we can work with them to unburden them. we live naturally in our inherent, whole, integrative, cohesive, coherent self. So this then idea is to broaden our spiritual understanding of this, the truth of our interconnectedness, not just I'm connected to everything in the external, but I'm also all the parts of me are connected as well and serving a very vital role for me that I may not have understand yet. I may not have understood. So Richard Schwartz says it like this, and it's what keeps me at this work. I'll tell you, for decades now. When you heal yourself, you heal the world. When you heal yourself, you heal humanity. This is the nature of our peace song. And this is why I tease that they won't let me lead the peace song. Many of you have heard me say it. As the peace song goes, let there be peace on earth and let it begin. And inside, we're like, let there be peace on earth and let it begin with him. And as soon as he apologizes, I'll consider it. And as soon as she changes that tone of voice, I'll think about it. So this makes it real. Heal inside. Then as I clear the projector, the projection changes. Heal myself. Heal the world. So how then to do this in the world? And I'll close with this story that came to me as I was preparing my monthly newsletter. And you're welcome to it. It's free. Just go over to marthacreek.com and go down to the bottom and subscribe. And you'll get it one time a month. You'll get something one time a month at the first day of the month. And this is written by the author Elizabeth Gilbert. She says, some years ago, I was stuck on a crosstown bus in New York City during rush hour. Traffic was barely moving. The bus was filled with cold, tired people who were deeply irritated with one another and the world. Two men barked at each other about a shove that might or might not have been intentional. A pregnant woman got on the bus and not one person offered her a seat. Rage was in the air. No mercy was to be found anywhere here. As the bus approached 7th Avenue, the driver came on the intercom. The bus driver said, folks, I know you've had a rough day and that you're frustrated. I can't do anything about the weather or the traffic. And here's what I can do. As each one of you gets off of my bus, I'm going to reach out my hand to you. And as you walk by, I want you to drop your troubles into the palm of my hand, okay? Do not take your problems home to your family tonight. Leave them with me. My route goes right by the Hudson River. When I drive by there later, I'm going to open the window and throw all those troubles right out into that river. It was suddenly as if a spell had been lifted. People started to laugh. Faces gleamed now with surprise. Like, is he for real? People who had been pretending for the past hour not to notice each other's existence was suddenly grinning at each other. Like, is this guy serious? Yes. Oh, he was serious. At the next stop, just as he had promised, the driver reached out his hand, palm up, and waited. And one by one, every one of those exiting commuters placed their hand just above his and mimed the gesture of dropping something into his palm. Some people laughed as they did this, others teared up, and everyone did it. The driver repeated the same lovely ritual at the next stop and the next, all the way to the river. He did what he could do. We live in a hard world, friends. Sometimes it's extra difficult to be a human being. Sometimes you too have a bad day. Sometimes you have a bad day that lasts for years. We struggle and we fail. We lose jobs and money and friends, and we lose faith. We lose love, and we witness horrible events unfolding in the news day by day. If we're not careful, we become fearful and withdrawn. And there are times when everything even seems like it's cloaked in darkness. And today we awaken to what if you are the light. You are the light. You are the very agent of illumination that a dark situation calls for. That's what this bus driver taught me, that anyone can be the light at any moment. This guy wasn't some big power player. He wasn't a spiritual leader. He wasn't some media savvy influencer. He was a bus driver, one of society's most invisible workers. And he possessed real power, and he used it beautifully for our benefit. When life feels especially grim, or I feel particularly powerless in the face of the troubles, I'm going to think about this and this man and myself and ask, what can I do right now to be the light? No matter who you are, no matter where you are, or how mundane or tough a situation may seem, I believe you and me can illuminate the world. In fact, I believe it's the only way the world will ever be illuminated. One act of grace at a time. God bless you, each and every one of you. If I can ever support you directly, marthacreek.com to contact me.